And here's another sign that this stain on our history will be part of the election process. Many Republicans across the country are preparing for the upcoming midterm elections by focusing on the last election, the lie. The Washington Post reports that hundreds of GOP candidates are endorsing as central messaging for their campaigns that former President Trump really won the presidential election. Reading from the Post, quote, of the nearly 700 Republicans who have filed initial paperwork with the Federal Election Commission to run next year for either the U.S. Senate or the House of Representatives, at least a third have embraced Trump's false claims about his defeat. Of those Republicans, more than 130 are sitting lawmakers who voted not to certify President Biden's election win on January 6th. Elected officials who spoke out against the conspiracy theory, like Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, have become key targets for challengers. They're using the big lie, Joe. They're not just believing the big lie and forcing or imposing that lie on many of their constituents or potential constituents.
Right.
They're using it as a way to win the election.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I doubt any of them are stupid enough to believe the big lie, but they certainly are using it. And it's a conspiracy theory that's born out of the belief that if my candidate doesn't win, then I don't recognize the candidate. That's not democracy. That's what we see in tyrannical governments. That's what we see across the globe in illiberal, not even democracies. But Gene Robinson, we have now, according to this report, 1 out of 3 Republicans who are seeking office so far are post-democracy candidates who are illiberals who will not recognize the last election because they don't like who won that last election. Here we are. And we have members of Congress who refuse to come out and say that Joe Biden is president of the United States, that he won legitimately. And we have, of course, talk show hosts on the Trump right who do the same thing. But this is an anti-democracy movement. And we're now seeing that actually people are running for office hoping they'll get elected by running against free elections, by running against democracy.
Right, and these anti-democracy candidates believe they're speaking to anti-democracy constituents. They believe that's what their party's base wants, and it raises the question, so how do you do politics as we know it? How do you do elections as we know them when one of our two major parties totally believes the big lie? And it's not just cynical leadership and cynical elected officials, but there is a ready and willing audience and base for the lie. And so, you know, you've got Liz Cheney, you've got Adam Kinzinger, you've got a few other Republican members of Congress who are realistic, who believe in truth, who believe in democracy. But what about the rest of the Republican Party? I mean, this is an astonishing and horrifying turn that our politics has taken. That we can't compete on a normal political playing field because one of our two parties believes in a fictitious version of history that is poisonous and that is not going away. I mean, it's going to be perpetuated through the next cycle, and it'll keep being perpetuated until and unless Republicans are completely wiped out in an election, unless there's a crushing defeat that perhaps causes the party to reform. But you have to be depressed about this perpetuation of the big lie and how it seems to be ready to go on and on and on.
Yeah, you really do. And I can only hope. We can only hope as a nation that by the time we get to next November, these democracy deniers will be defeated at the polls. We can only hope that Main Street Republicans take control of their party once again, and they champion smaller deficits. They champion balanced budgets. They challenge or they champion reasonable, rational regulations, reasonable, rational taxes. That we need a small government party out there. We certainly don't have one right now. Deficits rose and debt rose at the highest levels ever during the Trump administration. He was the biggest spending president in the history of the United States of America. So I'd love for Main Street Republicans to take control of that party again, Mika. Right now, though, if that's going to happen, they're going to have to push back on these democracy deniers. 1 out of 3 candidates, according to this report, is a democracy denier. They are saying we won't accept the results of the last election if our guy didn't win.
Right.
That's not a democracy.
Well,
all right? That's a tyranny. That's what we supposedly fought against in the Revolutionary War.
And they, I don't think, understand how precious and fragile our democracy can be. And a large portion of our population, as Liz Cheney put it, has been misled. And it's on them.
They're misleading
to either fix it or
themselves,
continue.
too.
Well, that's
I'm sorry,
in our country.
I didn't mean to interrupt, Mika. Continue, but it's important for us to remember those people, those 70% or whatever, they're misleading themselves, too. They could know the truth if they wanted to know the truth. They could go on Google. They could find out in 5 minutes that the lies that they're reading on Chinese cult conspiracy websites are that they're getting from Russian disinformation campaigns, or they're getting from people who hate America, who want to undermine America. They can find out. Those people can find out that those lies are simply that they're conspiracy theories that were churned up to divide this country. But they choose not to, Mika. So I think we have to go past blaming just the democracy deniers in Washington, D.C. or running for office. We have to start looking at the people who willingly go along with this big lie.